info is based on
lie down, I'm fine.
light mobility tasks that involve distance. So I'm just really like downloading Cindy's Zoom.
Just lie down.
The one that she's talking about tonight is the longer distance retrieve. So as soon as I get her video open,
The formal name is directed
take over that. And then I will be talking about forward momentum pull and my go find either a person or, whoops, let me change the name here. Or find the exit, find the car. Lead anything up into it, Cindy?
Okay, so Nick and I have been working since he was a puppy. And this is at PetSmart, and we have been working since he was a puppy on retrieving items in PetSmart. And he's also taking formal obedience classes and formal rally classes there. So we're there twice a week on average. So even though it's a very highly distracting environment, it's also one he's very comfortable in. I didn't intend to throw the keys as far as I threw the keys. And I wasn't sure exactly how, you know, I was pretty sure he'd go get the keys because we kind of primed up a little bit for this distance. But he did exactly what I asked him to do. So this was achieved by basically requesting him to get things further and for getting not just the keys, but multiple things that he's requested to get, and have him bring them back to me on a regular basis. And we just work on generalizing it every time we're out. So this was kind of an experiment because I hadn't done it where I've sent him out to get something that far in public before. So is everybody ready?
All right, here we go, Nick.
Ready.
And so the importance of practicing something like this is so that when you're ready to send them long distance to get something that they know by name, they're used to going further away and finding it.
Mm-hmm.
I have another video here I can pull up.
I'm going to pull the other one up.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you want to do is if you look at that task, this is something I always want to see in dogs. And I'm really happy to see it in Nick because I've always wanted a dog that has been this responsive. If you watched Nick do this, there's joy in his body language. And when you have a service dog that's giving you that back, that, hey, my task is joyful, you can't ask for much more from your dog. Okay, Penny, whenever you're ready. So in this case, because he had just been so ready and eager to go, instead of, and I had thrown them further than it was intended, I had actually placed the keys and I was going to pick up the leash there because I hadn't had him hand it to me, but he was in such a hurry to get the keys and get paid that he just, when I sent him, he just went. So
he likes to do his job.
He likes to do his job. And that's something that as service dog handlers, we really, really should be striving for, because who wants to go to work and do a job that's miserable? You know, this is one of the reasons I think that force-free training is the only way you should be training a service dog. There should be no compulsion involved whatsoever in training a service dog, because, you know, I don't have any videos of Poe retrieving. I'm going to have to make some videos of her retrieving at some point, but I've even taught my Great Pyrenees to retrieve with joy. And if you can get, I don't think she'll do it tonight, but if you can get a Great Pyrenees to retrieve a dumbbell with joy, the only way to do that is with positive reinforcement. You cannot do that any other way. And it just, when your dog works for you like that, the rewards really start to fade quickly from food to, hey, I just gave you a pat, you know, I gave you some sort of verbal acknowledgement because I am the job, and I do want to make you happy. My job is not to punish you or make you miserable. My job is to make you happy for doing what we're doing.
All right, so this is kind of the next step. Well, I mean, that particular task that Cindy was showing, you can also move into the step of, so you have your medicine container that sits in a particular place, or a test kit for your blood sugar or O2 sensor or whatever for your medical condition that's always in a certain place. And you can go from that long distance retrieve to retrieving that specific item once you put that item on queue. So you can blend the two different jobs together for one task. This one is kind of similar, and this was kind of early on in Azul's training, but so I think you guys probably all know both me and my husband are disabled. So sometimes we'll struggle with walking, and whoever's out in the kitchen will be the one that fills up the water bottles, and Azul will take them into the other person. And, you know, sometimes we can do that if we're going in anyways. But sometimes we have so much to do out in the kitchen that, like, if Scott's out in the kitchen cooking, instead of me getting up and walking out when I don't feel good, I can tell Azul to take my water bottle out to him. Or in this case, we're actually just practicing it backwards because he's learning how to go take it to daddy, which he also does this task like with mail. So it's the exact same task, but when we get a delivery that's light enough for him to take from UPS or FedEx or whatever, he'll grab it from the porch and carry it into dad, this exact same task. So here's Azul doing his take it to daddy, and he knows the bottle is mine, so he struggles a little bit, but he ends up listening to the cue. And that's full, so it's heavy. And of course, dad rewards him just a second too soon, so he drops it before he gets it in his hand, but he can get it in his hand.
You know, another extension of this task, I don't know if you're going to hit on it yet or not, Penny.
Go ahead.
Is finding an article. So I routinely lose my phone, and I don't think I'm going to get Nick to do it right now because he's tired, and he's basically looks like he's put himself to bed at this point. But so my phone has a ring on it, if you can see that. And the reason I have it is when it's folded flat like that, the phone doesn't sit flat on the floor, it will rock. And if it's upside down like this, he can get his tooth under and flip it up and pick it up by the ring. So I will often, oh, are you up? Nick, come here. Where's the phone? Get the phone. Can you guys see where it is?
I don't see where the phone is. It is on the pillow.
It's on the here. Nick, where's the
Mom,
phone?
you can reach that.
Thank you. Good boy. Now, okay, so now he's going to go, what? All right, so if you can, all right, Nick, where's the phone? Get the phone.
If you lose it, he's finding it in the couch.
He's finding it in the couch. It's buried under some covers. Thank you. Oh, thank you. He tried really hard. Yes, you're going to have some bacon. You can have that. So something I do is if, like, I want to keep Poe interested and, you know, focused on me. So when I'm doing something like that, unless I have sent her to her bed to lay on her bed while I'm training, if she's showing she's interested, she can get a reward too. So that was basically, Nick had to go underneath the covers because I have a blanket on the couch, and Nick went under the blanket and pulled the phone out because he had to sniff for it. And if you saw, kind of had to dig around a little bit for it. So that's a really handy task if you drop or lose a certain item like keys or the phone, and you can name it.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
Jen, do you have a question or?
Yeah, so on my screen, I have a picture of Azul's head as the main picture, and I only have a tiny thumbnail
You
of
have to
the
click on
video
theirs.
Yeah,
Right,
that was my fault.
of Nick fetching it. So it was really, really hard to see, but I
Would
just
you
wanted
like
to
to
make
see
sure
the-
that going
I had
forward.
the same issue.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. I
that was my fault. I didn't
no,
realize.
no, that's
I
fine.
shared my screen, but I didn't realize that when she was talking, you guys couldn't see her.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
you
make
just
sure
have
that
to
you knew
click.
going
Awesome.
forward.
Yeah, I just had to wait and not share my screen until after she was done.
see, I'm getting action prompting from a big
Yeah.
white hairy
Good
beast.
job.
All
Good
right,
job.
go on your bed.
So part of the reason that we're doing these task work groups is to kind of show you various steps along the way, because as we all know, our dogs don't go from point A to point Z, and they have to take a couple of different things. So the next video that I have, we were just teaching Azul the send task, send him to somebody or something. So he already knew how to retrieve at this point, but we weren't pairing it into the skill. And this
Before you get there, can I
stuff.
make a comment on what Cindy just said?
Sure.
One of the things that we did after we taught that basic thing was we would have someone take, like, when we were working with keys, take the keys, around the corner or something.
Oh,
like in the hall.
I do that, and what I do is I put him on a mat or in his crate. I
Yeah,
put him in a stationary position, and I walk around the apartment, and I go in multiple different places so he doesn't necessarily know where I'm and I put my hands in different places so he doesn't know where I'm leaving the item that I'm going to go ask for. And
Yeah.
then after I'm done, I'll go sit down, and then I'll ask him to go get it. And that's just part of our routine practice. And the nice thing about it is I taught him to do this I did not add scent to my phone. He does this directly from the scent from me holding the phone, that scent being on the phone.
Yep.
And so he goes and he finds it by the scent, but I didn't have to add anything to it, which is nice, because initially I was told when you teach this, you have to stick some sort of, like some sort of scent.
Oil or
dog-
something.
Yeah, like an
something.
essential oil on the item that you're going to retrieve. And I never did it. And it's actually really nice not to do that, because if you don't do, then they obviously know your scent, but you don't have to refresh that scent repeatedly.
Right.
yeah, I never used any extra scent either. That was one of Shasta's biggest things, was she loved playing Find Mom's Keys or whatever,
Mhm.
And we will remind people that there is another video that shows more about teaching the retrieve itself. So you can,
Buddy,
I'll put that
go
link
potty.
to it so you can see how we taught the retrieve
Go potty.
the task.
Go potty.
Did you have a question?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I muted myself.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Jen does have her hand up again though. So go ahead, Jen. Or did you?
No, I just,
down?
that's from last time.
Okay.
Okay, so
I didn't know you need to put it down. Sorry. I'm new to
Okay.
this.
Right.
Yeah, I forget all the time.
I think we all forget certain things, and that's one of
Right.
the easy ones to forget.
My question is, when you're saying that, that they should know your scent, they should be able to find your scent. All of the items in your home or apartment though would have your scent on them.
Right, but they
So
have
unless
different-
they're looking for the item by sight, like how are they looking for it by scent when
Okay,
all of
Because
the
the phone itself is going to have a phone scent plus your scent.
plus your scent, plus like my phone, it's got a screen protector on it. It's got an OtterBox, and it's got this ring, and he really likes the taste of the ring. And I'm like 99% sure it's got a different It's got a different taste because he licks it.
So
But
you're
in-
sure they're finding that item by scent and not just like looking around for it and seeing it?
Well, yeah, because
Well,
it was,
yeah, because sometimes it's hidden out of sight.
I actually had him do a really good alert. I had stuck it between the cushion.
Sorry, I'm just wondering because I trained with the item searching with essential oils and didn't think that that was possible to do without.
Oh
adding
no,
a scent.
because they have different scents. If I told him to go get green monster, Nick, go get green monster. Come on, get green monster. Where's
The
green monster?
All have a very unique scent themselves. Almost always there's something on your keychain that has a unique scent. I don't know exactly what it is, but Azul
Well,
will find my keys at home really well. When
Well,
we're
it's-
outside, not so well, right, Jenny?
It's also partially, so like my phone, it's got the phone scent on it. It's also got the scent of the plastic, and it's got the interaction between the oils of my skin and the plastic. Whereas the keys, I haven't named them yet because I keep the keys hung up in my house in a certain spot, and they're not to leave that spot.
Okay.
They can be a cheap.
No.
So my keys have a leather, it's not
Here.
really a key fob. It's one of those
Hey,
short
come on. Good boy.
tether things from Boldly Designs. It's leather braided. It's like a,
Mhm.
and so it's a short piece of leather, but it's more than a key fob. And I put that on there because I wanted him to have something besides metal for him to pick up. And he would either pick it up by the pepper spray that I had on there, or he picks it up by the key.
Oh, that's
or
scary.
by the keys. So pepper spray broke. It's no longer on there. But he still tends to pick it up by the metal. He likes metal. He's weird because most dogs don't
Found
like.
something really handy when Azul didn't find my keys. That I make my own leashes out of paracord, and then I have a matching, like Cindy's key tab, but made it that
Oh,
matches
God damn it, man.
on my car keys. So when I had to
Hey,
start asking people,
sure.
have you seen my keys? I was able to say, look, see this leash? It looks just like, and that came in really, really handy. We happened to be at a hotel not too long ago, and I had dropped them outside on our last potty walk of the night and didn't realize it until we found them the next morning. But we were searching a good long time for them. And Azul was so distracted by everything going on outside that he wasn't even trying. But eventually I saw the purple and blue of my paracord stick out. We found them, but it was scary there for a little while. We need to work on the task a little bit more. Project for when Jen is here next, which will be next.
So we're going to have a meeting of the minds and you're going to have both of us over.
Yeah, I might run out of room there. But so the main focus tonight is the longer distance stuff. So I just want to show this video of Azul because this is one of the ways that I use to add distance. And so this was kind of a bad couch day for me. And so Azul was keeping me company on the couch, but he was still pretty young and had energy. So I needed to get him moving a little bit. And I didn't need anything per se. So Isaac decided to just help with this training. So here's the video. We have played a version of what I call recall ping pong out in the driveway with him, where we use hand targets, which is what we're doing here. And we would call the dog, but this is where we're teaching them the go get. So instead of me calling Azul right away, Isaac is telling him to come get me. And then instead of Isaac calling him like he had previously, I'm telling him. And the hand target is just kind of sealing in that, he knows the hand target. He knows what that means when he sees it down. So even by me just saying, go get Isaac, then when Isaac puts his hand down, it's a reminder like, oh yeah, I need to go that way. So we had him running back and forth about 10 times that day, but that short little video clip kind of demonstrates how we go back and forth. And that was actually a precursor to moving the water bottle back and forth. Once we had this and could send him We could then add the mail, the water bottle, any toy or tool that we wanted to do.
Mhm.
So, did somebody have a question a minute?
No, I was just gonna say something, but I'll wait.
Go ahead, because I'll get my drink.
So
Ah.
some of the things I do with teaching distance, I've done this with, so when I teach distance for a cue that might be a send out, so Nick's learning to pull a tug on the door to close the door. And I started standing right next to him and kind of walking him through it step by step. And now he knows how to do that. We had to work on getting him not to swing into the room to pull the tug. So I needed to stand in a certain place. And I'm gradually moving like a step or two every day, usually about a step a day, further from the door and at different relations from that particular door, and giving him the cue that he loves doing because he gets to tug on something. So he will go and tug, and my cue for the door currently is tug because that's the easiest thing to remember because that's what he's got to do and he knows what tug means. And he learned to tug on a door to open a door when he was a puppy because I was using it to try and teach him not to get into the trash. But we hadn't used it for quite a while and I had forgotten I had taught him that. So it's been really easy to add this task, and adding the distance is simply a matter, depending on what you're asking for, it's simply a matter sometimes of just taking a step away, a half a step to a step away gradually and asking for the task and rewarding all the successes. And when you get to, 90% or whatever criteria you're using, change it up a little bit and continue to ask for those same behaviors.
So the other kind of longer distance task that we were asked to discuss tonight is based on my forward momentum task. So I'm going to show you a short little video of how I taught forward momentum and what my setup looks like. And this is kind of in the earlier stages, and my setup's not exactly the same now, but it has the same pieces and parts, just slightly different. But I only use a soft handle because all I need from Azul is a very, very light tension. And it's more or less when either I'm walking up an incline, a lot of it has to do with the chronic fatigue, but it could also happen if I'm having an autoimmune flare that causes the chronic fatigue when I'm out grocery shopping or something like that. So I use that task a lot. This video actually shows going up the hill, which is where I taught it. So wearing this black harness here that kind of blends in, and now he wears a blue one. But so I have a paracord soft handle I made by myself. He does have a leash attached also because we're out and about in a public place. Just going up the hill. And so at this point, it's just getting the feel of it. And I just say, let's go is his word to start walking. And he automatically wanted to pull at that age. And when I dropped the handle, it was an automatic cue to not pull. So what you're seeing right here is kind of how I started the dizzy alert as well, because that's all when I'm holding the handle. And when I stop the handle, he won't, or drop the handle, he won't go until I ask him to. So that was where we started with our forward momentum pull. And then we improved from there. So, it was just kind of a basic to get up hills, but then I need actually several different forward momentum pulls. You kind of saw the end of my dizzy alert one there where I was just starting to teach him if the handle starts wiggling back and forth side to side, chances are I have vertigo, and he leans into it a little bit. At that point in time, he only leaned a little bit, so you might not have caught it, but now he leans a little bit more. So one of the reasons that I really need this forward momentum, especially besides hills, is stairs. And So this video is gonna look almost exactly the same. But just a quick,
I'm gonna have to get off here, guys, but I will watch the video later. Thank you.
all right, thank
All
you
right.
for joining.
Bye.
Thanks, Lyra.
So same handle, and I would just, because he wants to run and rush, I'd have him go up one step at a time until we get there. And then, of course, his reward for that one was being able to socialize with the people at the top because I wanted to say hi to him. But so I can quickly just pull up the one where he's going down the stairs because it looks a little bit different going downstairs. Because going upstairs, he's obviously in front of me. But going downstairs, I'm more likely to, I don't need his help up, and it's more likely to be a tripping hazard. So I will then have him slightly behind me going downstairs. So these are the same steps, same location, but it shows one step at a time, and he waits. When I stop, he stops. And then when we get to the bottom, he kind of trots back up to start pulling again. So I heard something but didn't hear it. Oh, I guess it was my video I heard. Multitasking.
Can I add something to another way to train this if you don't have access to hills or you can't walk on stairs or is I found it extremely helpful with Nick when working on a little bit of momentum. And my boyfriend doesn't even know I do this really is I have Nick and I will walk behind him and I'll give him his cue which is hike to pull. And then because he knows if I'm holding the handle, I'm probably going to let him pull a little bit. And when I give him hike, he knows he has free reign to walk as fast as he wants. And so that can be, if you don't have the ability to go up a hill or walk on stairs, that's also another simple way to do it and have them just follow somebody and you can, while they get used to that cue, and then eventually you can move the person further and further out and then have them not be there.
That's actually my next task.
Oh, sorry.
So no, that's okay because you described it really, really well. So this is showing, this is my follow daddy cue. And it's the exact same thing you were just talking about. And this is just a short clip. And again, this was in his early days. So one of the other reasons that I teach the follow daddy cue, well, actually, there's a couple of reasons. For one, it helps with that pull when I need to pull. But for two, if we're in a really crowded space, sometimes it's easier to be following another person that you're with. We've been with a group where almost everybody was walking single file, and then I can have my dog, instead of in a heel, slightly out in front of me if he's following my husband or a family member, and that makes us take up less space.
But
So I've done that like in a doctor's office or something when we go to, when they walk you back, I'll just say follow. And if I don't add a name, he knows it's follow whoever person I'm talking to, or I can give him a name if I want him to follow a specific name of a family member.
Penny, that's also useful in a restaurant, a crowded restaurant, when you're following the waitress.
Exactly. So there's my husband's feet. Azul knows that if the person stops, he stops. And when they start, he will go automatically on his own now, but I don't think he did at the time of this video. But so he knows pace changes as well, because I don't know if you've ever walked with somebody on a regular basis that's grocery shopping, but they speed up in certain areas when they know there's nothing else they're getting, and they slow down and they stop, and their pace is always changing. So Azul is basically trained to match that pace. So when we're out with Daniel and my son, and I tell him, all right, I've got everything, let's go, he kind of makes a beeline for the cash registers, and there's no way I can keep up with him there without Azul assisting. But Azul knows that when I say follow, that he's just to match that speed unless I ask him to do something else afterwards, like if Daniel's going really too fast, I can ask Azul to slow down. But otherwise, he's going to match the speed of whoever's in front of us, whether that's a snail's pace, a normal pace, or an accelerated pace. So that comes in very, very handy if you're having one of those days where you're not really able to concentrate and pay attention a whole lot, because he kind of takes that out. When his handle moves, I move. And when his handle stops pulling forward, I know to stop. And it's just kind of easier for my brain. Should I be able to watch my husband and know that? Yes. But on every day, can I? No. So very, very handy task. It's one I use a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't even mean that they necessarily have to be pulling to move you forward to follow somebody. It just means that they're giving you enough tactile input that that like with me, Nick, and I'm pretty sure Azul does the same thing. 90% of the time when you're walking and you've got the over the shoulder leash on, you're not cueing the dog, and you're not holding on to the handle. But if you need to grab that handle for any reason, that means they need to pay attention to all the rest of their body for the cues. And that means, if I'm stopped, I need to be braced a little bit more. And if I'm going to be walking, there's going to be tension, and it's okay to have tension if we're walking and we're following somebody.
Right.
And
Just it. It's not a really heavy pull unless we're following somebody that's walking really fast, or that's the only time that he has that heavy pull. And sometimes if we're outside and like we're trying to go to the car and he's in a hurry to get outside because he knows sometimes he gets to greet people or something, he might kick it up a notch. But all I have to do is give him the simple cue of slow down, and he'll go more at my pace. And that's usually comes into play when he's not following someone and we're alone, that once in a while he tries to kick it up on his own. But
Penny, I'm sure you train this to also have him, when you're walking with somebody with another dog, that when you're not holding on to the mobility harness and you're following somebody with another dog, that he's not to race up to the other dog. And
right.
This is where, you've got to teach them to when they need to disengage from following that person with momentum, when handler does not have hand on dog.
Right.
Versus hand on handle, dog needs to pull. And they can tell when you're holding that handle and when you're not, and they can tell when they have tension on it, and when you shift your weight, they can tell all of that.
I kind of do things a little bit differently than the normal person because sometimes I'm holding the handle just because it's a day where the dizziness is coming and going and coming and going. So he may not have tension on the handle just because I'm holding the handle. And there's also other times, especially if we're out on a walk that is very rocky, like big rocks or steps where we got to step up every now and then. So he also is used to the tension when he's 6 foot out. As far as I can tell him, all right, go is his cue to, lean into it a little bit to provide that tension. So it doesn't have to be the handle. And in that type of environment, the leash is usually clipped in the same place as the handle. So he's more verbally cued versus the actual physical. When I'm holding the handle, I have to watch this because I use it in too many different situations. So, and I need some versatility there.
Well,
and so I don't know if you noticed, like going up the steps, I was actually holding the handle because it was wide and we had more room. But some trails, that's not necessarily the case. We were hiking Memorial Day weekend with my daughter in some like really small footpath kind of trails that were all up and down because we were on waterfall adventures. And there's no way I could have done a hike like that without him. And I have to be able to send him, a foot or two up ahead of me and hold position so that I can then pull up behind him, or ask him to follow me so that I can step down first and he can follow me depending on, whether we're going up or down. So
that's where having a really good, strong partnership with your dog pays off, because over time, our dogs learn how to read our signals, whether we've consciously taught them a cue or not.
Right.
Now, Poe, I never really put much effort into formally instructing her on how to do her job as a mobility dog. But her job as a mobility dog has pretty much been, oh, I'm dizzy. I'm going to feel like I'm going to, I need something, my eyes are going wonky and I need something tactile that I can feel, whether
I
it's
have a video of that too, if you want to see it.
yeah, whether it's just the tension of holding onto the handle while I'm walking, or something more than that. She's always been able to walk right at my side, and when she's not wearing a harness, I just I'll put my hand on her back and she'll do the same thing. And it's not a weight bearing thing, or she would not be doing it at this point, because she's got pretty bad hip dysplasia, and it's really, I mean, it was showing 2 years ago, it's really showing now. But
So this is actually Cam who's doing that. And I will just use my thumb on a collar just enough to help us stay together. But most of my hand is on his neck because I need that tactile, and he is tall enough to do it. And again, like Cindy said, there's no weight bearing on him. But this was actually the first dizzy kind of task that I taught, because it was much better than bouncing from wall to wall to wall down the hallway kind of thing. And sometimes you're not in a hallway. So Cam learned to do it this way, and Azul's not quite tall enough, which is why we had to find, more formalize it and learn how to do it with the handle. So I just have my thumb looped in his collar. If he needs to get away, he can get away. But it's more the tactile on the skin. He's following me when we stop. We hit the door, so we had to stop there. But so he'll sit and wait, like, where are we going now? What direction? Because he doesn't have any clue. And when we're, in a hallway or something and he knows the general idea, then he just does his heel and makes sure that I stay with him. So he adjusts his speed to stay in that heel so that I can feel that hair, which does a lot for keeping me present. So the handle I've learned how to use to do the same thing, but I noticed with the handle, if I don't realize, most times I realize when I'm dizzy. If I don't realize it, which is like when I'm pushing it at the grocery store or something, the hair actually keeps me present, whereas the handle doesn't keep me present. So Azul is also trained to, if he feels that handle wiggle more than just a time or two, he will do what I call his dizzy alert, where he steps on my foot with his foot. And when he does that, I know I need to stop and either sit down and pet him for a few minutes, or, depending on the situation, sometimes I can bend over or squat down. But since I'm already dizzy, the bending over and squatting isn't usually the right choice. So usually it's a total sit down on the floor and pet him for a few minutes and kind of just, let everything soak in and get my bearings back before I get up and move again. So that tactile stimulation does a lot for me.
well, I found I didn't think I needed it, but because technically my injury is, it's a brain injury. It's, brain getting scrambled from hitting the ground at 20 miles an hour. And I never thought that having the cords to play with on Nick, this is one of the reasons he's staying in cords, is having the cords to play with and to run my fingers through is actually one of those tactile grounding things for me when I'm dizzy or just not feeling well, that kind of comes into play. And with Nick, I can reach down, and like you were saying about talking about just holding on, touching the fur on Cam's back. With Nick, he's tall enough that I can grab a cord or two and just hold on to the cord and feel it, and kind of with kind of the same tactile that you're talking about with getting from Cam. without having to worry so much about bending down to get fur.
And I can touch Azul's head to do that. So if I know that, like, if I know that I'm going to be able to stand up, maybe I'm leaning against a wall or something, that I will touch his head. I just don't like to do it there because should I, heaven forbid, pass out and fall on him, it's more of a risk in that area. So, and I can bend just slightly. I'm talking, you know, like half an inch and be able
Yeah.
to reach his neck. He's almost high enough, but it's just uncomfortable enough and, you know, a little bit more dangerous for him that usually if I need to do that, it's a sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
So I have also, and I've really only just started the find a seat kind of cue, but that is a, you know, if he's annoyed with my dizziness and I'm not listening, and I can tell him, go find a seat, and he can guide me to a seat. Before we started that one, we worked on a couple of other go finds that are a little bit easier, because I mean, seats vary from place to place to place. So and this is what I actually started as a young puppy, because it's association kind of like the go potty cue that you use when they're actually doing it, you give the cue. So for a young puppy, I'll say, time to go in the car, let's go find the car, as I'm walking out to the car. So obviously I'm leading the puppy at that point. But so it starts out at home in the driveway where I'm giving the cue, you know, a foot away from the door I'm gonna open, and slowly back it up so that I'm giving that cue in the house. And now he knows, you know, when I grab a certain leash, because we have two different leashes, we have our out and about leash, or we have our, you know, let's go on a sniff about leash, are totally different. So he knows based on which one I grab, whether we're going to the car or whether we're going, you know, out into nature. So I don't even have to say the cue anymore, and he goes to the right place based on whatever leash I grab. So we started with go to the car at home, and each and every time we went to the car. And then I started adding in the same thing like when we were leaving a business, but, you know, originally starting when I was right by the car, just like, you know, backed it up like we did at home. So I'm only a couple feet away where the car is in plain sight, and tell him to find the car. And we backed it up and backed it up a little bit further, so that then we were cueing it, you know, as we first walked out the door. And then we were cueing it when we got to the door, because I don't use a different cue for exit, although it's basically the same task that I backed up even further. So once we got inside the door, I cued a lot at registers to go find the car. So right after we checked out, or just before we hit the registers, if we weren't buying anything, so that he would learn that go find the car means find the registers first and then go find the car. So now no matter what building we're in, except for maybe a hospital that doesn't have a register, but in a hospital, if I feel that bad, I'm not necessarily going to be in a hurry to leave. So I still can do it at the car or at the door, but in businesses, he's trained. If I say go find the car, it means look for the registers first, and then we'll always go out by the register. And that way he's not looking for just any random exit either. He's looking for the particular one by where I parked. So
Penny, I don't know, do you drive a gasoline powered vehicle or a diesel?
yes.
Okay, so here's something that you can, if you have it, one thing you can do in addition to the steps Penny's mentioning is you can start the vehicle if you have a remote starter. And this is something I never ask Ken to do, but he always turns the vehicle on before we get in his truck. Well, his truck also has a diesel engine, and I haven't really worked with finding the vehicle yet with Nick, but I know diesel trucks smell different and sound different because the fuel is different. So when I noticed today when we were at the doctor's office, a guy drove by in a silver Ford diesel truck that looks almost identical to my sister's F1. What does she have? 250? I don't know. She's got a 3/4 ton Ford truck, diesel. to haul her horses. And I noticed when the guy drove by, Nick really perked up because his experience with that, with the silver diesel truck is, I'm going to agility. This is fun. And he gets amped up for that.
Right.
And so he actually, and then Ken's truck is also diesel and he'll start it in the parking lot. And so starting your truck or your car, if you have a remote starter, starting your car when you're, before you get to the car, and then working backwards. from
Right, because
tuning
then they can use not only the smell, but the sound and
the sound and
sight,
the
and use all their
sight.
senses.
Yeah, you can give them, that gives them more, just more information that they need to determine it's my vehicle versus it's somebody else's vehicle.
Right.
Because you don't want your dog running, you know, if you have two, so my boyfriend drives a Chevy Canyon. You don't, if you have two identical Canyons parked next to each other, you know, you don't want your, you know, or halfway across the parking lot from each other, you don't want your dog going to the wrong one. You want them going to the correct car. And there's usually scents on the car, on your vehicle, that are not on other people's vehicle.
Right. Well, and I do know that some people have used different scent packets that they like teach the dog to find, you know, whether it's that essential oil or whatever, and put that on the back bumper or, you know, move it into a tire well area and things like that to help a dog learn the car.
Or peeing on the tire.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I took a different approach because I have a boy that likes to mark, and I always tried to park near a light pole or something to that extent, and I would have him mark the pole because I couldn't get him to mark the tire originally when I was teaching it. That way he knew he was going for his scent. If he marked the pole closest to the car, when I told him to find the car, all he had to really do was find his pee spot, and then he could.
Well, the other thing is, you don't have this issue because you live in a northern climate, but Rhea and I have this issue. Generally speaking, when you go to a parking lot in a very hot area, if there is a twig of a tree standing there, every car is parked under it. But that's also a really good place to have your dog mark to find your vehicle.
Yeah,
So
that's actually kind of where we started with trees when he was younger, and we needed to be out further away from the store because he needed that grass opportunity anyways. But then once he learned that, we transitioned it to a pole because we get enough rain that it washes it right out anyways. And he drinks so that he can mark all day long too, so his isn't really strong. If you look at any other, if you walk any trail or, you know, parking lot or anything around here, you see that all the other dogs mark on poles. So I always figured if I'm far enough out in the parking lot, the pole that's closest to my car is a safe bet. And I know by Azul smell, other dogs have peed there too. I don't mark the poles that are up by the door. So, you know, a lot of buildings will have poles that are more or less on the sidewalk, not in the parking lot. So he actually has it on cue where I could tell him, okay, go, or nope, not here. And before I got to that point, I would just avoid those areas, you know, give enough girth so he wasn't able to sniff the pole. But now I can let him sniff those attractive areas that smell like so many other things to him and just remind him that not here, and he won't try to mark it. So that's come in really, really handy for that task of finding things when he's only allowed to mark right by the car.